Welcome back, friends. This is Yvonne Davis, your traveling warrior astrologer, and I am bringing this to you from under the stars. Today I'm taking a look at the Taurus new moon, which is on the morning of May 19th. Overall, this is actually a really nice new moon with the moon and sun conjunct at 28 degrees of Taurus. We also have Uranus in Taurus. We have Mercury now direct in Taurus. We have the North Node in Taurus, and we have Jupiter at 0 degrees of Taurus. So we have a ton of energy in Taurus. We actually also have Vesta in Taurus, even though it's not on this particular chart. But it is there. And so Jupiter is the great benefic. It's at 0 degrees and it's spring. So we are all thinking about something new, and Taurus is an earth sign and it's ruled by Venus. So we're thinking about our material well-being. We're thinking about the earth. We're thinking about spring and getting ready for spring. I'm sure a lot of you probably have spring fever and can't wait to get outside and enjoy the good weather and maybe plant a garden and do all those wonderful things that we love to do in spring. And having Jupiter there will help us with that. Now, this is a general reading, so if you want something more specific, you can look at where this is happening in your chart, which house, and then find out what topics that house covers. And that will give you more idea of where something new is blooming and blossoming. You can also plant seeds at this time, both literally and metaphorically. In fact, new moons are a great time to plant seeds, and this is a beautiful new moon. It's a perfect time to do that. The North Node is very close to Jupiter, and it also has an energy that is similar to Jupiter because it's all about moving outward into the world, moving into our future. It's expansive, just like Jupiter. It's a very positive energy. Then we have Mercury now direct, so we can really start moving ahead with our plans and not have to worry about all the snags that Mercury retrograde can cause. And then we've got Vesta, and she, even though she's not on this chart, she is there, and she is the goddess of the home and hearth. Okay, so it kind of makes sense because I have a feeling that as we are really sort of soaking in this Taurian energy ruled by Venus, like it's like the Empress card in the tarot, you know, the sense of abundance, the sense of blossoming and wealth. And wealth isn't always about money. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's just a feeling of abundance, a feeling of well-being. And I think that's what this new moon is all about. It's got some really nice supportive sextiles. One is from Mars in Cancer at 29 degrees, and the other is from Neptune in Pisces at 27 degrees, which means that Mars and Neptune are also trining each other. So this is a very kind of magical energy. And then we've got Venus in Cancer. So she's also making a supportive sextile, even though she has a somewhat wider orb than Mars or Neptune, but that's totally fine. Her energy is really supportive there in Cancer. And then we've got Saturn in Pisces also making a supportive sextile, and it's in a very close sextile to Mercury. Okay, so when you think about Mercury and Saturn in that sextile, basically what we're thinking about is being very practical minded, like being very down to earth, you know, thinking about practical matters like how can I make such and such happen? How can I plant seeds and watch them grow this year? Okay. And I suggest actually that you do that in a very literal way. So I love all of these sextiles and trines because, like I said, Mars is trining Neptune. That's a very magical energy. It helps us to visualize our future and move toward that future. I also like that Venus and Saturn are trining each other. It's a somewhat wider orb because, you know, it's a 6-degree orb, but that's totally fine. It's still a very supportive trine. And the only thing that's a little bit tricky is Jupiter forming a T-square with Pluto opposite Mars. And because Jupiter is the great benefic, Jupiter itself is not the problem. It can sometimes magnify a problem, though, if people are in the shadow of Jupiter, which can be overindulgence or righteousness. And if Jupiter is going to show its shadow side in this chart, then it's definitely going to be in the form of righteousness. Okay. So let's talk about what Mars opposite Pluto means, because this is really the only fly in the soup where this whole chart is concerned. And unfortunately, Mars opposite Pluto can indicate violence or accidents. Okay. So you want to be careful around this time, use common sense, and take what I would say would be just common sense precautions. Okay. Don't be out walking at night alone. That's not safe. Even if you do so normally, like you maybe take the dog for a walk or something like that, but try to be a little more cautious around this time, because Mars opposite Pluto can be dangerous, can indicate violence. There are other ways it manifests as well, but that's one of the primary ways. Is some kind of physical violence. We'll probably see that in the world somewhere manifesting, but right now I'm speaking more to you in your personal life. So you just want to take those kind of precautions in your personal life to avoid any kind of accident or potential physical violence. But this, when I say accident, always that's also very important, because like you want to be careful in terms of car accidents, or it can even be something as simple as walking through the living room and accidentally banging your knee on a coffee table. But there's just this, it's like a predisposition for something, some kind of danger or accident to occur. So it can also be on the psychological level. So for example, Pluto can be someone trying to lord power over you, power trip you. Okay. And Mars is angry about that. So there can be some kind of battle. So that can be between you and someone you know, or it can be between you and some kind of authoritarian organization. And it can be something as simple as, like, one time I got a traffic ticket, when Mars was opposite Pluto. And all that happened was that I went to the library. I parked in this temporary zone in order to drop off my books. I dropped them off. I got right back in my car and I started to pull into traffic. But there was so much traffic because it was rush hour that I was having a hard time getting in. And so I stayed in the turn lane and I drove across the street and continued in the turn lane instead of pulling into traffic. And I didn't even I didn't even think twice about it. I'm just like trying to get safely into the traffic without having to cut someone off. But sure enough, there was a cop behind me, pulled me over, and gave me a ticket for $135. So basically the point I'm making is that it doesn't always indicate something that is, evil, in other words, because the cop was just doing his job. And, technically I did break the law. I just felt like this $135 ticket was so out of proportion to what I had done. But unfortunately, that was the law, and I didn't want to take the time to try to fight it. So I paid it. But, I'm just giving you an example. Like, it doesn't always have to be manifest as something sinister. Sometimes it's just an ordinary experience blown out of proportion in a way that feels oppressive and might even make you feel angry. So that's one way it can show up. Like I said, other ways could be danger or accidents. Another way could be someone intentionally lording power over you. So it could be a power tripping situation. So all I can say is to have a positive attitude, because most of this alignment is really, really, really beautiful and supportive. And I would say this is just like one little challenge that you need to get through. Once you get through it, it's going to be all sunshine from there on out, because that's what this chart is bringing. So also understand that this T-square with Jupiter, Pluto, and Mars may last more than one day. Okay. So the new moon obviously takes place on May 19th, but the energy will usually go on for 4 or 5 days, sometimes a whole week, sometimes as much as 2 weeks until the full moon, So usually you're going to see it in that first week though. But with this T-square with Jupiter, Mars, and Pluto, it's sort of like coming into alignment, and it takes a little while because not all three of them are exact at the same time. Jupiter makes an exact square to Pluto first, and then Mars makes an exact opposition to Pluto, and then Mars makes an exact square to Jupiter. So it will take a few days. It's kind of like the new moon, as it's coming, as it's waxing, and whatever is going to be manifested through this energy, it may take a few days, may take a week or so, so just keep that in mind and keep your eyes open for whatever this alignment is bringing into your life. I would also want to point out that this is a very karmic alignment. This T-square is a very karmic alignment, because of the fact that it actually forms a grand cross with the North Node and the South Node, because the Pluto-Mars opposition is forming a grand cross with the node. So it makes it also very karmic. Okay, so that karma is getting activated by this T-square as well. So again, don't let it make you nervous. Just see what unfolds. Try to be as open and flexible as you can regarding how you deal with the situation. I like to say that we create reality by the way we meet what is. Okay. So try to meet it with an open, loving heart, with positivity, with compassion and understanding and empathy. That doesn't mean you're a doormat. If you need to, set some boundaries, that's totally fine. So I'll leave you with that. Now, something else I want to share with you is my own personal sort of new moon in Taurus. I am starting a new channel, and I want to share with you a kind of sneak preview. And I hope that you will enjoy it. It's very much about this energy of the new moon in Taurus, of spring, of opening things up, of enjoying nature and planting seeds and all of that. And so I hope you'll enjoy it. This new channel is about me living at my cabin. A lot of you know that I go to live at a cabin in Colorado in the summertime. And so I've decided to do a channel that is a YouTube homesteading channel specifically around myself living there and what I'm doing there, building the cabin by hand. And I'm going to be growing a garden this summer, and all the kinds of different things that I'm doing there. So I'll be sharing all of that on the new channel, and I'm just giving you a sneak preview. And I hope that you will enjoy it. And I also hope that you will join me when I do finally bring that new channel online. Okay, that's it for today. So just want to give you a heads up. If you want a reading, I'm still doing my anti-inflation special. It's only $99 for an hour-long reading. And that's always good for up to a year. And it's also transferable if you ever want to give it to someone else. And so I hope you'll take advantage of that. You're welcome to purchase more than one if you want to. So as long as that special is going on, feel free to help yourself. And again, that lasts for a year, and it is fully transferable. All right. So the other thing is, on Fridays, I always have my Patreon Zoom meeting. It's about 2 hours, and we talk about anything you want to talk about. That's my face-to-face online astrology community. It's a wonderful community. We really, become friends over time. And if you'd like to join us, you're totally welcome. And again, we talk about virtually anything you want to talk about. I mean, obviously, it's usually always related to somehow to astrology, but it's a really fun place. And so that's every other Friday, pretty much. Every once in a while, it gets shifted a little bit, but we are definitely meeting this Friday, May 12th. And that's in the evening. So if you're interested, come on over to Patreon. You can get on the $5 tier and you can still access the Zoom link. Okay. So I'm going to leave it at that. And I hope you enjoy this sneak preview of my new channel and my homesteading adventures. See you soon. Bye-bye. Welcome, friends. My name is Yvonne Davis, and this is the first day into my summer adventures. This is an ongoing project building a homestead in the Rocky Mountains. This property has been in my family since 1962, so over 60 years. It's on the top of this hill, nestled at around 6,800 feet in elevation, 1.6 acres. Most of the land surrounding the property is national forest. It's this DIY hand-built cabin. The original cabin was built in 1918 from wood harvested and milled on the property. That cabin eventually collapsed. The roof caved in one winter due to an unusually heavy snow. The new cabin was started in the early 1970s, so it's about 50 years old now. It's very bare bones. Only about 25% of it has been insulated. There's no plumbing, except an indoor toilet that's flushed manually with a bucket of rainwater. There is electricity, but it always blacks out in a snowstorm, which is exactly when I need it most. So it's very basic. Currently only inhabitable about half the year. So there's a lot to be done, but that's why I'm sharing this experience with you. As I said, it's an ongoing project. I fell in love with this land as a child, when my family would come here in the summers. The cabin is mostly unfinished on the inside, and it's full of junk. My goal is to clean it up and eventually turn it into a year-round, sustainable off-grid homestead. At the moment, the inside is dark, cluttered, and dirty. In the height of summer, this is one of the most beautiful places in the world to live. So the challenges are definitely worth it. The plan for this summer is to build a dormer in the upstairs attic. Right now, the attic slopes at such a steep angle that an adult can only walk standing straight up in the center of the attic. By building a dormer, it'll turn half the attic into a room where an adult never has to bend down to avoid hitting their head on the ceiling. I also plan to install a wood stove in the living room area and build a kitchen. but that won't happen this year. Other than the dormer, my priorities for this season are to clear up all the garbage on the land. Unfortunately, people have a tendency to dump garbage illegally in rural areas, like old tires, old barrels, metal fencing, including barbed wire. I want to clean all that up. Then I'll get to work on clearing the land of the dead wood. I never used to think about forestry management. In fact, whenever I heard the term, I thought it meant clear cutting. So it was a vile thing in my mind. But as an adult, taking on the responsibility for the land and cabin, I began to understand the value of proper forestry management, which isn't really about lumber at all. That's only a tiny percentage of what's involved. More importantly, it's about fire mitigation and the health and biodiversity of the ecosystem. We can be an integral part of that. When I started educating myself about the subject, because obviously I want to do it correctly, I ran across an interesting book titled Trees in Trouble by Daniel Matthews. It discusses the causes of the severe wildfires and infestations that are so challenging these days, and how forestry management can help reduce the threats and in turn increase the health and vibrancy of the forest and all its species. So of course I want to do my part by properly managing the forest on my land, and that includes clearing out the dead wood. It's super dry and would just add fuel to a fire if anything ever sparked here. So other than the dormer, the cleaning and clearing up of the land is super important. I also want to spread grass seed and wildflower seed on the patches of bare dirt in order to reduce blowing dust, while at the same time attracting deer, wild turkeys, and pollinating insects to the grassy, flower-filled meadows. And finally, I plan to grow herbs and vegetables in raised beds.